taking note of the performance of the judiciary this year, 2024. I have with me two gentlemen who will be helping us go through what is no doubt very good year for the judiciary. Maybe, if there is anything that they have to say that will completely alter that perception. But Section 39(1) of the Administration of the Judiciary Act 2020 entails the presenting of the judiciary's annual performance report that provides an overview of the judiciary's activities, achievements, as well as challenges. And on the 11th of October this year, the judiciary launched the 4th annual performance report for the financial year 2023-2024 at the new Supreme Court Building Conference Room. Joining me on set to speak that and everything judiciary is the spokesperson of the judiciary himself, that is James Eremye. Many thanks for joining us once again.
Once again, thank you for hosting us.
And we are also joined by Benjamin Katana, a lawyer. Many thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much, Chris.
You two gentlemen are best suited to outline for us the performance of the judiciary in the year 2024. Of course, on the backdrop of 2023 and the successes therein. I hope you will be candid enough.
Of course.
No doubt.
It is always fact.
All right. Facts. If you don't mind, what is the overview like of the 2024 performance report for the judiciary?
Well, thank you very much. Our viewers, good morning. I bring you greetings from the judiciary, and we love you so much. This morning we want to really have an overview of the performance of the judiciary, and I must say that we have registered tremendous success and achievements despite a few challenges, which we hope with the support of all stakeholders we shall be able in the next financial year to gather more results. But as for now, you can see that the transformation agenda, which has been at the forefront of the Honorable Chief Justice's program, has seen us move from the judiciary of yesterday, the one people have always been talking about and having issues with, to now a very promising judiciary. And we really want to thank everybody who has given us that opportunity to gather these outcomes. And you will notice one important thing that I want to make is that outside there, when the people are talking about performance, they sometimes don't understand, okay, the benchmarks for performance. And later I will be, if time may allow, tell the public, our viewers, that the performance of the judiciary, first of all, the core mandate is adjudication. So when they are looking at performance of the courts, they are looking at how many cases, you know. There's these figures, only cases. But yes, to even have those figures, those statistics, the cases, there are so many other factors that determine that success. Okay, and this is what is enshrined in our strategic plan 5, and which is anchored on 7 aspects. And when all these are achieved, we have them in issue, we are able, okay, we are able then to return very positive results in terms of case disposals, case management, backlog reduction, etc. But those other strategic investment programs need to be looked at. So when we are now discussing performance, we should not only look at case disposal. Let us also look at the determinants of that case disposal. Okay, recruitment, funding, you know, ICT, the technology, transport, you know. What about other sister agencies who contribute directly into the service delivery of the judiciary and its performance? So all those inform our performance. That's the general overview.
Okay, that's an overview. Thank you very much. Later we shall be breaking down especially aspects that do form what is no doubt challenges that are persistent year in, year out, including independence, as in big as that word sounds.
Independence of Uganda.
Independence of the judiciary. Council Katana, what is, I know you will agree on some of the aspects of the overview that Mr. Remy gives us, but as a lawyer, from your point of view, I think don't be worried about digressing. How do you see things?
Thank you very much, Chris. First of all is to applaud the judiciary. While the idea of coming up with an annual report is in compliance with the provisions of the law, the Administration of Justice Act, it is a good tool for the judiciary to annually look at itself in the mirror, using the tools that have been developed to see how far it has come in as far as administration of justice and execution of mandate is concerned. When you look at, and also a realization that it is accountable to the public, because the judiciary derives its legitimacy from the people, and therefore it must periodically account to the people of Uganda. And when you look at the report that His Worship has highlighted on, you'll notice that there is a slight improvement. I must mention really that it is slight, I think about 0.8 something %, but an improvement is an improvement, and therefore it must be credited.
That's right.
But when you look, and I'm glad he mentioned that later on we'll be delving into the details, but if you look, for example, at the performance, say, of the Supreme Court, which is at 10%, it is worrying. And then the Constitutional Court, which is Court of Appeal, at about 7%, it is worrying. And of course, like he mentioned, the judiciary does not operate independent of other, where there's the concept of the independence of the judiciary. But that doesn't mean that it works in isolation.
That's right.
There are other actors that contribute to its performance or failure to perform. And one of them is the sister agencies like the Directorate of Public Prosecution, the investigators, the lawyers, and the court users generally. But also the budget allocations. I'm glad in the report there has been improvement in terms of how much money they receive. But I would suggest that the performance of the judiciary is looked at in the wider and broader spectrum as an element of a bigger concept called democracy. That judiciary cannot exist in the absence of a bigger concept called democracy. It is one of the parameters of measuring the democratic space of a country, that there is an independent judiciary. So while these numbers are very important, it is important that it is more important that we look at the wider spectrum, look at things like the quality of justice that is received, the independence of the judiciary in execution of its mandate, and the public perception. Because public perception is born out of what is seen, what is read, and what is observed. And normally people come to these programs and then they go into legalese that confuse the public, but and I wouldn't want to take that route. But most importantly, that when matters are being determined by court or are taken to court, do members of the public, do the litigants have the confidence that the courts of law are going to deliver fair rulings or judgments regardless of which parties are involved? Because one of the key responsibilities of the judiciary is to safeguard the rights of individuals from individuals, but also from the state.
From the state, yeah.
Yes. But also to safeguard the citizens for example, if you look at the criminal justice system, if a person has committed a crime and the evidence is presented, this person should be given appropriate punishment to safeguard the society. These help in ensuring stability and national security, but also investor confidence. If I'm going to invest my $100 million in Uganda, one of the aspects that I'm going to study and base on is the dispute resolution mechanisms. How long do these decisions take? If I have a dispute and I take it to court, and is going to, my money is going to be stuck for 5 years before a decision is made, all these have an implication on the investor confidence and attraction of meaningful investors to the country. So the judiciary is so important, even for people who have never gone to court, taken a matter to court. And I think the bigger responsibility now that His Worship and the department have is to make sure that members of the public understand that even when you don't have a dispute to take to court, even when you have no case, but the courts are important to you, even if in your life you never get a dispute to take to court. But we have mentioned, for example, when people commit crimes and they are taken to court and appropriate punishments are given, it's a deterrent. When meaningful investors come to Uganda because they have confidence in the dispute resolution mechanisms, it helps. It
has a ripple-down effect on the economy.
So the number of questions that members of the public have, as members of the public we have, largely relate to, one, disputes take long to be resolved. And I know it is not entirely attributable to the judiciary, but the judiciary as the lead agency on that aspect has a higher responsibility
and must
in ensuring that the disputes are resolved timely for the factors that we have given above and fairly.
That is right.
The other aspect is that the judiciary has been largely quiet on, I wouldn't say quiet, but has not been as outspoken on matters of violation of human rights. And I want to give credit that when we have always run to court, for example, when people have been held incommunicado, we don't know where they are. The judiciary, no matter on issues like habeas corpus, has always been quick to issue orders, which is provided for under the law. But on some aspects,
whether those orders are respected,
now that is not theirs. But on some aspects, for example,
it affects performance
and which has been in the public realm is about the trial of civilians in the court martial.
That's right.
The Constitutional Court gladly delivered a number of rulings indicating that this was inappropriate. The Attorney General appealed to the Supreme Court, got an order staying the implementation of those orders. And it's now like 3 years and the Supreme Court has. So in cases of that nature, the citizens are worried that the judiciary, as the gatekeeper, may not be performing its task as expected in as far as safeguarding the citizens from the state.
The excesses of the state.
The excesses of the state is concerned.
All right.
But maybe before I leave that point, is that the judiciary has a role to perform, but the citizens too have a role to perform. The challenge has been that I think Ugandans are always looking for a heavy lifter. The judiciary is run by human beings. So, as citizens, we have a duty to work towards an environment that enables the judiciary to execute its mandate. We cannot leave it up to them that they will solve it. When
interesting there, when you tell the Ugandan that they have a whole lot of leverage in how the judiciary will be able to perform better, some of them might be wondering, like, what is this lawyer talking about? Doesn't he know what is on the ground? Our ability and our efforts to ensure that we actually do that particular role is often stifled, and when there is a bit of what appears to be connivance between the judicial officers and the implementers of some of the orders the police, then the public begins to think otherwise. So perception issues are very important. But I know that Your Worship, you have submissions in response to that, especially on the aspect of public confidence. Whenever the judiciary is seen not to be in tandem with the mandates that it has, especially in safeguarding the public or the people, it's questionable. I've always told every judicial officer I meet, why is it that cases that the state has against any individual, especially a political activist or the opposition side, are taken on and executed pretty fast? An individual or a citizen who has a case against the state, you can take your 7 years.
No, I think that's your opinion, and I want to respect it. My brother has actually made very fundamental points here, and I want to thank him for recognizing that there is improvement, because I was worried if he were to say that there is no improvement at all, and that's the trajectory we want to take.
That is right.
As a judiciary, of course, there are a lot of things that can happen in the institution, but by and large, the institution has a core mandate, and which core mandate is derived from the people. Of course, when you look at the Constitution, Article 126, we do this work on behalf of the people, okay? We derive the judicial power from the people. And so the aspirations, the norms, the laws, etc. are the guiding principles when we are performing our work. Now, you can imagine a situation where we have a caseload, okay? You see, the biggest issue here is once the public can understand what is the caseload in the courts vis-a-vis the number of judicial officers. If anyone can understand the mathematics there, the ratio of 1 to 80,000 cases is still big in Africa, okay? Now, in other places, Kenya alone here has, I think, 2,000 judicial officers, if I'm not mistaken. Here we are crippling around 600.
655.
You know?
Wow.
And when you look at the population, you know, vis-a-vis the numbers. So we want our people to understand that. Confidence, I would tell you that the judiciary is taking deliberate steps to ensure that public confidence is restored. And we have taken steps to identifying the gray areas. One of them, like you have said, is delays. Now, delays, and my brother has clearly stated it, delays is not a deliberate step by the judiciary. Delays are caused by so many factors, okay? And which some of these factors are not in the control of the judiciary, okay? For instance, I've just talked about the caseload vis-a-vis the number of judicial officers. We have, and we are very grateful to His Excellency and the government for allowing recruitment of judicial officers. Now, in the Supreme Court, where I don't want to comment about the matter which is before the Supreme Court, but in terms of manpower, just a few years ago, the Supreme Court was bedeviled with the lack of quorum.
Yeah.
You know? And it's just until yesterday when justices of two justices were added to the what? To the Supreme Court. And now you can see this performance you have seen is just within the same period when we now had a fully constituted, at least where we can have a quorum to handle some of these matters. Those matters could have been handled if the Supreme Court was duly constituted to be able to do these things. The public do not know these dynamics. And so it's our duty to explain them and tell them that yes, your matter could be at this court, but because of these dynamics, these challenges of manpower, they sit in quorums, we cannot have the quorums, you see, that contributes some of the delays. However, we are now very lucky, and you can see now the Supreme Court is moving. Every other day you are seeing sessions going on, and we are doing a very tremendous work. And that is part of the improvement that you are registering today. When we look at the other issue of infrastructure, you saw what happened the other time. The Supreme Court had to be disorganized when fire gutted the premises the other side. Now, Kololo. During that time, okay, they have to move. The same time we have lost 2 justices at the same time, you know. That contributes to destabilizing the processes, okay? And so, but we are very happy to government and the people of Uganda because we have twin towers, you know. And you really, if anyone has come and we want to invite Ugandans, you come and visit the twin towers. Come and see the
for
beauty.
purposes of clarity, yes. The twin towers, that is at the former High Court, now Supreme Court.
Now which are the twin towers? We have only the twin, in Uganda, those are the twin towers. Okay. Okay. Sure. Yes, right. Probably the twin towers are President's office. But yes, I wanted to point out this. Okay, what has really helped us or contributed to this performance? That is one, having now a permanent home. Okay, and yes, you know, when you're a tenant, there are so many things you can't do. But now we have a permanent home. We are able to do so many things. We are able to plan without any interferences. That's right. We have been able to develop ICT solutions to our processes. Okay. You can see what XMIS has done. Many, at the beginning there was a lot of resistance, but you can see now people have gotten used to it. The recruitment of the different officers now, the funding you just mentioned, we are lucky that government has, and as the promise was, that every financial we shall be having an increment, which shall be, you know, over time, and we believe at a certain time we shall have achieved the full funding that we are looking at to be able to do these things. What about the innovations? So many innovations have come in place. Okay, and particularly here I want to talk about the very important aspect of ADR, the alternative dispute resolution mechanism. The Honorable Chief Justice has deliberately redefined it to say the African justice resolution mechanism, because these are African. Why are we calling it alternative to what? In fact, the former system is should be the alternative. Ours. His Excellency the President has insisted that we should get back to ADR. You know, and as the judiciary, we are moving in that direction, and it is really giving us very good hope. Investor confidence. We want to assure the investors that with this trajectory, with this support, we are moving the right direction. Definitely you will see a lot of things. We are going to have now more judges being recruited, and our focus is commercial court. You see, and so if we have very many, as many as possible, okay, a number of judges in the commercial court, this investor confidence will be an issue we are looking at, because we want to have lesser lead times. You know, you see, the delays should, because if you are in a business and money is held up for those many years, like you said, we definitely, you will be frustrated. So the focus is, when we get these recruitments, the commercial court will be boosted, and then you will see that. Then what about the public? The public should know that they are central in the administration of justice. Just oftentimes, like Council said. Yes. Oftentimes the public tend to be aloof and start watching. But I want to assure you that the public has been intimidated. There is a deliberate, yes, and I want to agree that there is a section of the public who fear court, who even the mere mention of court can freak them out. But what are we doing in the judiciary? We have stepped up public sensitization in order to bring the public confidence. We are improving on our public relations and the customer care, because those are the key aspects which cause the fear at that initial interface with the public. So once we improve those ones, as we are already doing, and we are sure we sensitize the public. When we come here, we are doing it. We go on radio, we go to court open days, etc. We invite the public. We are trying to bridge that gap.
No
and ultimately,
thank you very much. And NTV and Morning at NTV in particular, we're glad to amplify the sensitization campaign. And as far as that is concerned, Council, I'll be coming to you shortly. But there's something I know you would love to have His Worship respond to. Courts have often hammered down orders, but upon letting the either the victims who later become victims, but people have been set free, the state with all its might comes through and rearrests almost immediately, sometimes within the premises of the courts, and that is a bit unsettling to the public who do not understand. Is it a case of connivance? What has the judiciary done about this state of affairs? Have you spoken to the executive? Just take us through, how does it feel, or what happens when such incidents continue to happen with gay abandon?
I think what we need to understand is that the court as a court is an arm of government and has a mandate to perform. And then there are also other agencies which do other particular aspects of the administration of justice. The key issue here is courts have, to be specific, have granted, for instance, bail, okay, to some suspects or accused persons, and then they are rearrested, okay. Now, what has been happening, and we have already, this happened before, you remember, during the storming of the Temple of Justice the other year, and the court came out, the judiciary came out boldly to say, no, this is not right. You see, you cannot arrest anyone in the precincts of the court. Okay. Of course, they also have their reasons. They say some of these people have other charges, and so they want to prefer them. And we have advised, and we said, no, if you know you have as many charges against somebody, it would be prudent if you present them at the same time. And I want to assure you that the judiciary, the Honorable Chief Justice, has had these discussions, and I'm sure of late, I think you have not seen this kind of thing going on. Of late, I'm not aware of.
The other day, the corruption court, Your Worship.
No. Of course, I'm talking about the recent past.
Okay, we do appreciate and pray.
We have had these discussions because surely we advise each other. We advise government. The government advises us. We have these conversations. Okay, and all is intended to ensure that the public have confidence that we are doing, and we shall continue advising one another on how best to do certain things.
All right, Council, that particular issue gains a lot of impetus, especially in light with what the new president of the Uganda Law Society has described as the need to clean up the dispensation of justice. He speaks about the fact that the rule of law itself is endangered, as it's now ruled by law. And it's a mantra that has born what he describes as the new radical bar. Do you agree with some of the sentiments of the new president of the Uganda Law Society, on top of any submission on this particular aspect that His Worship has just made?
Certainly, there is a lot to do in terms of ensuring that there is a rule of law, constitutionalism, and respect for human rights. And what you have just asked His Worship about is an aspect of a bigger problem from my standpoint. People being rearrested from court upon being granted bail, but there are also incidents where, and on that one, I think that's where the question you are asking of connivance comes in, where remand is used as a punishment before trial is concluded. A person is because maybe the other agencies of the state are interested, a person is kept on remand for a long time, no evidence is brought, eventually the person is set free, There are no mechanisms for, you know,
compensation.
Yes. That is one aspect. The other aspect is when, and this one may be beyond the judiciary, but we are talking about the ecosystem within which the judiciary operates.
Yeah.
That you have a court order, if, for example, you look at land disputes, and the court order requires the clearance. Imagine you have obtained the court order from the High Court. Then it has to get clearance from the RDC. The RDC to interpret a court order, or the DPC, and all that mechanism. And when money has exchanged hands, the court order is even trashed at that level. So and there is no follow-up. The whole chain of administration of justice, there are challenges that need to be addressed holistically. The judiciary has its part, but even what is beyond the judiciary in terms of mandate, I believe it also has a role to play in terms of speaking to the other arms of government. The unique character of the judiciary, it is that it's ideally, the non-political arm of the state. The other arms of the state, the executive and the legislature, ordinarily have political interests. And many times, for the case of Uganda, the violation of these rights is done in advancement of political interests. It is not done by errant officers of the state. It is done in advancement. Because if you have been a student of the politics of Uganda, you realize that the biggest violator of human rights is security agencies. And also the victims are largely political actors on the other side of the political divide. Those that are opposed to the ruling party. Now, matters have been worse by what for us as observers see as a fusion of the state and the ruling party. That you find the army, the police, consider themselves an extension of the ruling party. And when they are doing their work that involves people that are opposed to the ruling party, then they treat them as if they are enemies of the state. There are fears in some sections of the public that in many cases the judiciary also is seen to fall in that line of being co-opted by the ruling party in doing politics, especially when they are dealing with people ordinarily who shouldn't even be arrested for exercising their democratic rights, like protesting and what have you. So the whole idea of rule of law, I agree, we have the deficit is so much in this country that we need to have, and many times the challenge is that when these questions are raised, they are just responded to by the arms of the state in a manner that is aimed at just answering. But I think sometimes it is calling for a moment of reflection. That if I'm the Speaker of the Republic of Uganda, or the Chief Justice of the Republic of Uganda, I should have a moment of reflection and ask myself that in as far as my constitutional mandate is concerned, in ensuring that there is rule of law and things of that nature, am I performing my duty to the expected standard? And if I have fallen short, is there anything within my means that I can do? Because these are human beings. They have limits as human beings. And that's why I mentioned that citizens too have a role to play. Because if the ecosystem is problematic, these judges and judicial officers are human beings. They are also intimidated, like the citizens are intimidated. They also have lives, they have families. And that is, you need to know that the milestones in human history that have led to stamping of individual liberties and rights have not necessarily been on account of actions of institutions like the judiciary, but citizens
Okay.
So citizens must perform their role to make sure that the judiciary and all these other state agencies have a friendly ecosystem that will enable them to execute their mandate.
No doubt, no doubt. All right, I'll be putting you on the spot very shortly because you're a lawyer and lawyers are part of the judicial service sector.
Exactly.
No doubt. You need to also answer some questions.
I wanted really to...
Very quickly, Your Worship.
You see, in this report, which copy I have here, okay, the Honorable
MorningAtNTV will be happy to retain.
Because you see, this is good information.
Very good information.
The Honorable Chief Justice clearly pointed out the challenges that have impacted on performance, and he was not intimidated to even point out the political interferences that you have rightly said. But I want to clearly state that yes, the ecosystem within which the judiciary operates, okay, has a great bearing, okay, on the performance. Because you see, until the public understands the performance as was reported, and then understand those kind of challenges, okay, then we shall have a proper verdict at the end of it. But here, I want to...
very quickly.
The judiciary has not been co-opted in any of these, whatever he called it, the politics of I don't know what. You see, there is a problem in Uganda. When my brother Katana is the victim, he will cry loud. But tomorrow when he is the successful party, he will praise the judiciary. Now, we are in a situation, okay, and he has rightly said that politicians, like the members of parliament, etc., and some of them, they are political actors, you know, when they have issues, they run to court. And the court is an independent arbiter, okay? And that's the rule of law. If there is any issue involving the state and the citizens, or the citizens amongst citizens, there is an independent actor called the court. Now, when they come to court, the court does its work, okay? But where the court has not granted bail, it is playing politics. Where the court has granted bail, they are silent. They don't want to talk much about it because these particular cases, the people were given granted bail, regardless that there were those arrests, and I've said so. Okay, so the judiciary has not been co-opted in these games.
All right. We
shall remain independent. Article 128 clearly states the independence of the judiciary, and we do this in tandem with Article 126 on behalf of the people, and we shall continue so. The intimidations, like he has pointed out, well, yes, we are human beings, but this is the conversation we are talking about to improve the ecosystem.
Improve the ecosystem.
And we are very happy when we have many people coming in to discuss these issues until we come to the appropriate point.
Time is not our best ally. Your very last one, and they should use under 60 broadcasting seconds. Lawyers, you're too expensive. Your services can't be afforded by the people. And
I would like to hear that.
There is absolutely no attempt at any one point in time for a lawyer to tell the public or to tell a prospective client that we can manage even if you have little money. What is happening?
No, no money at all. No,
yes, I like we mentioned at the beginning, the stakeholders include the lawyers. But also, like I mentioned, the ecosystem. Because, for example, when you look at the economy, the cost of living has gone through the roof. These lawyers, actually, for your information, men are even struggling to pay rent. So if you are talking about lawyers, I think lawyers are charging very little money because if they charged a lot, very few would afford to pay. So the cost of living has affected everything, and equally so affected the cost of legal services. And so it's a very big challenge that needs to be addressed holistically. The lawyers try as much to offer pro bono services, but there are limits because they have rent to pay.
Of course,
they have lives to run, and things of that nature. So the access to justice is a holistic is a
All
holistic
right.
subject that
No doubt.
involves the lawyers.
I wanted to hear that.
Yes.
I hope that the performance report is something to build on, especially looking forward, and that the next year, when we come back here to look at the performance report for 2024-2025, things will be
Absolutely, absolutely.
perfect.
We are on a very wonderful trajectory.
Matia Kasajai
No, this is
kind of
a Winnie Dolo trajectory.
All right, thank you very much, Your Worship, James Eremie, spokesperson of the Judiciary. Many thanks to you too, Benjamin Katana, lawyer, for the perspective and emboldening our understanding of how the Judiciary has performed. That will bye. Welcome back. Many thanks for staying with us here on Morning at NTV. Time now for the Kickstarter, 8:15. I have with me members of the East African Parliament who will be speaking to us in light of the start of sessions here in Uganda as part of a round-robin process that sees legislators from the East African Parliament do the deliberations from the precincts of the national assemblies of the various countries that form the East African community. The President is expected to open or launch this particular session tomorrow, but deliberations are already underway. In studio, I'm joined by Honorable Jacqueline Amongin, the Yala MP from Uganda, as well as Honorable David Ole Sankok. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Morning at NTV.
Thank you, Chris Igenye.
I am challenged. You're looking very, very East African.
Yeah. This is
and
the
I'm
flag
looking very British.
This is the flag of the East African community.
Yeah.
And of course, this is the flag of Uganda. We are all East Africa, and we are lucky that tomorrow, or the day, yes, actually tomorrow.
That's right.
The President of the Republic of Uganda, His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, the father figure of the East African community, because you know he have the institutional memory of the East Africa. Is one of those who formed actually East African community. Again, he is a well-known worldwide as a Pan-African. And you know, East Africa is one of the economic blocks that form the building block of the United States of Africa. So Yoweri Museveni being a Pan-African, well-known throughout the world, we will be very happy tomorrow and challenged to host him to open for us our plenary.
All right. Thank you very much for what is no doubt a very, very good endorsement of the President, given his stance on economic integration. And that will form the crust of our discussion. What is the progress and what are the projections? Allow me, Honorable Amagin, in line with typical Ugandan hospitality, to first stay with the visitor.
Yes.
You are a member of Parliament from Kenya.
Yes.
Yes. And the very, I know the previous sitting, was it in Kenya?
Yeah, it was actually in Kenya. Of course, we have our sitting in Arusha. It is rotational sometimes, but our headquarters is in Arusha.
I want to just pick on the resolutions at the meeting in Kenya and how they play into the fact that you are beginning deliberations in Uganda today.
You know, ours are not resolution. East African community is actually a government like any other government. You have three arms of government. Here in Uganda, you have the legislative arm, which is Parliament of Uganda. In the case of East Africa, is the East African Legislative Assembly, which is mandated to make law. You have the judiciary here in Uganda, and in the case of East Africa, is the East Africa Court of Justice.
Court of Justice.
You have the executive, which is the president, together with the ministries and others, being the executive arm of government. In the case of East Africa, is the head of state summit, together with the council of ministers. So, being a legislative arm, we make laws and pass law. And I'm sure Ugandans are enjoying some of these laws. You see the trade between Kenya and Uganda have improved in the last 10 years. I think for Uganda trading with Kenya, export have gone tenfolds. courtesy of us making laws that implement the pillar of the common market. Common market is free movement of goods and services.
People services as well
and
as
also
capital.
the custom union. You know, now we have the East African passport. It is not a Ugandan passport. It's not a Rwandan passport. It's not a Kenyan passport. It is an East African passport. So as a house that make law, as an arm of government that make laws, we are proud that the laws we have made have beared fruit and is being implemented.
Okay. Honorable Amongin, the significance of this sitting in Uganda today in light of the realities that we are facing in line with the integration process. There are concerns by Ugandans that maybe we are too enthusiastic about integration than our counterparts in Kenya and Tanzania. Do you think this particular sitting has the opportunity to rectify some of those things and offer much needed confidence in the fact that this should be fast-tracked and that all the other states are able to be as enthusiastic as Ugandans are?
Okay, so thank you so much, Chris, and good morning to you and all the listeners out there watching us. First of all, I would like to, in a special way, thank the President of the Republic of Uganda and the Parliament of Uganda for having considered hosting us as a region, because it's since up to now, it's since 6 years since we last held the regional parliament in Uganda, and therefore enthusiasm is definitely expected as we commence our engagements here in Kampala for 24 days, actually starting today. That's why you see I'm putting on the Ugandan flag, because I was actually welcoming members from the airport, so showing them a little bit of courtesy. And however, in regards to our sitting here, remember, like Honorable Sankoka has mentioned, the East African Legislative Parliament is a parliament. So it's not a must that we do resolutions, we do legislations. And as per the Treaty of the East African Community, the legislations that are passed by the East African Parliament, assented to by the heads of states, become automatic supreme law of any member state that is integrating. So that means all the laws that we pass are keenly looked at, and they must be so involving, more consultative in all the 7, but now we are going to 8 member states. And once the heads of states are sent to those laws, automatically it's law. Why the Ugandans are very enthusiastic, and most of them would like to know, actually I'm receiving a lot of calls on how they can bring petitions to members of parliament, is because there's a lot of engagement between the Ugandans and other member states. We do a lot of business in terms of people moving goods and services, people moving to Kenya, Kenyans coming to Uganda. As you can realize, prior to the integration, we just had probably $200 million US as a country. But now we are up to, from the time of integrating, we are up to $700 US trading between Uganda.
Trade volumes.
Yes, between Uganda and Kenya. And the same applies to other member states like South Sudan. You know that we trade a lot with South Sudan. We trade a lot with Congo. So these are the main aspects why the East African community was founded by our forefathers. And we'd like to appreciate the fact that one of the strongest pillars that we have in the region, all our heads of states are committed. But for institutional memory, like Honorable Sankonku mentioned, the President of Uganda is not only passionate about the regional integration, he is passionate about Pan-Africanism. And I have not yet found someone who is as passionate on Pan-Africanism as Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. So having such leaders within this integration process makes the process run smoothly. And in terms of also the contributions and the and making sure that this community is well functioning. Member countries have tried their best to make sure, and Uganda is one of those that does not default in terms of remittance and in terms of ensuring that their commitments are met. So sincerely, at our level as a country, we are excited to host these members of parliament from other regions, plus also staff, but also for the members to appreciate one of the member states that they represent. We will also have outreach activities in the different parts of Uganda, but most importantly the border points, because that's where our goods pass, the border points. That's like right. Busia, like this side of Ntungamo. I mean, we expect to visit some border points. Yeah. We also have other engagements in terms of in line with the treaty, activities that we do in line with the treaty, and of course our legislative role as members of the East African Legislative Assembly. Okay,
I'm glad you talked about the issue of remittances and meeting obligations in terms of fees. There have been concerns, for example, that some countries that are not doing so are kind of failing the process of ensuring that the integration goes on as planned. I just want us to contextualize this. What do the fees mean, and what is the value in terms of if, for example, the Democratic Republic of Congo does not remit a certain fee as required this particular year? How are the deliberations or the goings on affected to the extent that it can be judged as not something that ought to happen the way it does, and that a state should be able to act as effectively in order to bring this money forth? Just bring us up to speed with that.
Chris Igenye, I think this one is a straightforward question. As the East African Community Economic Bloc, which is I describe as a government, like that one that sits in Uganda, of course the Republic of Uganda's money comes from taxes, the same with right. Other sovereign nations that are member states of the East African Community, but our money comes from contribution from member states. So of course once the contributions are not there, then it will disable some of the activities that were supposed to take place, including the implementation of some of these pillars, and also the making of laws in parliament, because members must move, sit in Arusha, and pass the laws. But I think we don't focus so much on the negative side of our new member states. We welcome them. For me, I actually choose to focus on what is DRC bringing in, the African largest water tower, our border to the Atlantic Ocean, meaning we can do business to the west, South and North America. I also see Somalia coming in, not with the conflict that they have, but with the almost 5,000 coastline that borders the Indian Ocean, that allows us to do business with the Far East, the Gulf of Aden, which allow us to do business with the Middle East and the European nations. So for me, we chose to focus on those ones, and I'm sure, Igenye, you can vouch for me that we have achieved a lot, because at the moment we have implemented 2 out of the 4 pillars. The custom union, free movement of people from one country to another. For you today to move to Kenya, you only need your national ID. There is no visa requirement.
No visa requirements
for movement from the within the 8 member states. Also, you can also attest that there is quite some level of free movement of goods from one nation to another. Our businesses are coming up. We are trading, and even local wananchi from Kenya and from Tanzania, from Uganda, they are trading freely. So I think the only thing that we have not implemented fully is the monetary union pillar, which should give us a single currency, because it is really shameful that if a Kenyan want to come and trade in Uganda, he have to convert Kenya shillings to US dollars at a fee. Then once in Uganda, to buy maize, you have to convert the dollar into Uganda shilling at a fee. Yet Americans are nowhere. They are not the sellers of the maize. They are not the buyers of the maize.
Yeah.
So they reap from where they have not sown, in where what we call in Swahili, pilipili usioila ya kuashiani. You are not a trader. Today, if I have to buy a car from Japan, they will tell me the value in terms of US dollars. The Toyota car is not produced in US. They are not the buyers of the Toyota car. Today I've come to stay in Imperial Royal Hotel. They have told me the price in US dollars. I asked those managers of Imperial Royal to go to New York and see if they will ever been told the price of our hotel in terms of Ugandan shillings. Why should we actually be under political, socio-economic neocolonialism?
All right, that's a very, very important aspect that you do bring forth. Of course, the realities of the global economy do dictate that the dollar has the kind of power that it has. Maybe some of the deliberations
we
that
are the ones giving it power. We are the ones giving it power.
Deliberate on it so that you can.
Of course, we are passing the laws, and that's why we want to have the single currency. Probably it will be called the East African Pesa, or the East African shilling, or whatever we will call it, or the dollar.
Call it pesa. Pesa is
East African Pesa.
Yeah, shilling is again.
When we have the East African Pesa, it will be stronger than the dollar, and we will ask the American to trade using East African Pesa for at least 60 years, because we have trade with the dollar for 60 years.
All right.
Yes.
I'm waiting for that moment to be very, very poignant. Honorable, what is on the order paper as the sitting and deliberations begin in Uganda?
Okay, so the order paper is kind of packed. It's going to be a busy 3 weeks in Uganda.
Okay.
And definitely we have space for nationals to bring their petitions to the relevant leaderships of the different committees. And we have 6 committees. So we expect also to meet the traders of Uganda, because these are the main people who move so much within the region. So we are expected to meet with Kasita, and that will be on Friday. Of course, tomorrow after the opening of the plenary, we also have bills that need to be brought to the attention of the House. Among others, personally, I have like 3 bills that I would like to bring to the attention of the House, and there are also motions for members to deliberate on. So the order paper is kind of like packed in regards to handling legislative business. But there are also other issues that we are following up. Whereas the East African community is formed on 4 pillars, some of these pillars are already being hampered by the fact that we also have other challenges that were expected. For example, climate change. These are the issues that are really need harmonization within the region, because our oceans are drying up. I just came from Lusaka. You know the common Victoria Falls. It's actually now dry. That very beautiful place. So such disasters are also affecting us within the region. Drought displaced and killed thousands of people within the region. Recently in Burundi, in Rwanda, in Uganda here, people were even displaced from Bugisu, Bududa, you know, to Bunyoro. So we are thinking that as a region, we can come up with we already have a policy. But you know, a policy, when there is no act in place, it is non-committal.
The harmonization,
of the climate change issues within the region will help us address our pillars within the East African community. So in terms of handling the legislative business that we are going to handle in Uganda, we expect to digress on the various issues, and this cannot be like specific, because for example there are different people, including members of Parliament of Uganda. They have petitions. I know Honorable Atima Jackson Lee from Arua has already a petition that he wants to bring, because Arua does a lot of trading with it's within the border of
Congo
and South Sudan. So he has a petition that he wants to bring to the members of the East African Legislative Assembly. So in a nutshell, I would say that the legislative business for our being here for the 3 weeks is very rich, it's very engaging, and it is people-centered.
All right.
There is a, from Honorable Amogin, the order paper. In fact, I have a motion in the order paper on blue economy.
Blue economy.
Yes, because here in Uganda, you have the Lake Victoria Fisheries Organization, which is an institution of East Africa, and in Jinja. And I had visited it. I saw what they are doing, and we have pumped a lot of money as East African to the Lake Victoria Fisheries Organization. But unfortunately, the neighboring communities are the poorest. Fish from China is cheaper than the fish from Lake Victoria on the shores of Lake Victoria. It is still the political, socio-economic neocolonialism. Because you can imagine a fish imported through ship all the way from the Indian Ocean all the way to maybe the Dar es Salaam port or Mombasa port, and then again through the road to the shores of Lake Victoria, and then becoming cheaper than the one you just remove using Anduano, like this.
Anduano is the hook.
Yes, the hook. Anduano is the hook.
Okay.
You know, I'm speaking now in
yeah, of course.
It's the hook, as we call it in Nduano. So I'm bringing that bill of blue economy, how we can utilize the 38 fresh water lakes. You can, I think you have visited Geneva. Lake Geneva is man-made.
No, I haven't visited Geneva.
Lake Geneva is man-made. Yeah. And they attract the highest number of tourists. As we have not used our 38 fresh water lakes to attract tourists, we have used our fresh water lakes to wash cars. You can imagine, you know, there is still, I don't know which mentality do we have. We have the two largest water towers in Africa. The Congo Belt and the Mao ranges. How have you been able to harness it? Have you been able to utilize it? We have rivers, like the Congo River. It is the river with the largest volumes of waters in the world. We have Lake Tanganyika, the longest lake in the world and the deepest that can accommodate very heavy ships. But have you utilized it in terms of transport? No. We don't utilize them. We used to use them to wash cars. Lake Tanganyika borders 5 countries, meaning if you have a port, you can easily travel to the 5 countries without using roads. And the roads need construction and maintenance. That's right. We have not been able to utilize. A port in Jinja, meaning you can do business. You can travel to Mwanza, you can travel to Kisumu, you can travel to Homa Bay, you can travel to Kampala without the need of construction and repairing of roads. But we have not utilized. So I have that one in the order paper.
All right.
Definitely.
That's a very good one. I hope it's taken on with the kind of enthusiasm.
I'm lobbying for Honorable Amongin to support me.
Obviously, you know, I will be a seconder of that.
Honorable Amongin, I don't know whether you didn't share the details of the 3 bills that you intend to put forth. Would you mind to divulge 1 or 2?
Okay, so in our legislative business, we have bills that are brought by the Council of Ministers. Then there are bills that are brought by private members. Okay. And also there are bills that are brought by committees. And of course, all members of parliament belong to committees.
That is my private member, mine.
Yes. Okay. So just like Honorable Sankok is bringing a private member's bill on blue economy, which I think is, you've already convinced. I know our colleagues are also watching us. Yes. It's very convincing. Yeah. But I know that it's since 7 years ago that the East African Parliament in the Hansard proposed a climate change bill, and the ministers confirmed in the House that they will be the ones to bring as a council bill. But having joined the East African community, Since then, nothing has been done to this effect. Of course, there is already a climate change policy, but for me, I think that there is need to expedite on the law, because there can be nothing being talked about in this era of ours without addressing issues to deal with climate change, and this needs harmony. He was talking about the lakes, Lake Victoria. Pollution in the waters is affecting not only the marine life, but also the human life.
But also the human beings.
Yes, and we are misusing our water bodies. We are still a very plastic economy in the region. Let me give you an example of Rwanda. You cannot enter Rwanda with paper, plastic. You can't. And I think that is a smart way of harmonizing within the region.
Okay.
So one of the bill that we are bringing as a committee is a single-use plastic bill that we hope that the region would appreciate. And then as a private member, I'm bringing an East African climate change bill in the House. I hope that the House will give me leave to introduce this bill. But also among the bills that many other members are bringing, but we're also expecting to table. I actually intend to table a bill on anti-female genital mutilation. Whereas in Uganda we have come up with a law. We already have an act of parliament, the political leadership, especially the president, the parliament in the previous parliament where I sat in Uganda parliament, we came up with the anti-FGM law, and which is implementable today in Uganda. Other East African community member states are still hustling with an act, very barbaric act. And I have received petitions from different parts of the region. Okay. So this is one of the bills that I intend to table to the House. But also, I would like to
very quickly.
I would like to bring a motion. I'm bringing a motion actually in the order paper to expedite, calling the Council of Ministers to expedite on the issue of single currency. Because this is kind of like lagging behind, and yet really if we do not give it priority, you know, the Americans gave $1 a priority worldwide. The East African community,
they also had the power, enormous power to do so.
And the East African community is one of the blocks that is quite doing well within the African Union. So we feel this is an area that we will be giving
30 seconds.
Thank you so
much.
30 seconds.
We should be out of here.
Yes, you know, I told you His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni is our father figure as the East African community, and because he banned importation of second-hand cloth. Personally, and I thank all the members of parliament, they actually assisted me in passing my bill or my motion on banning of importation of leather products. It is shameful that we import leather products. My other bill was the use of local currency within the trade of East Africa, which was actually passed while we were in Kigali, and it is a precursor for the